Welcome to the Executive Corner Expert Talks by Kalkine TV. I'm Sage, and today's guest is Dr. Tal Rapke, the CEO of ScalaMed. And ScalaMed is a new way for doctors to e-prescribe with smart prescriptions. ScalaMed believes patients deserve to be empowered, so stay watching till the end to find out how their cutting-edge technology allows for a more patient-centric healthcare. In today's show, bringing you live, we have Dr. Tal Rapke, the CEO of ScalaMed. Welcome to the show, Tal. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks, Sage. Thanks for having us on the show.
So I'm sure the viewers are keen to hear from the CEO of ScalaMed, so let's get started. And ScalaMed is transforming prescription management globally. What is the inspiration behind this innovative brand for more patient-centric healthcare, please?
Yeah, thanks. I've spent a lot of time in healthcare, both as a physician in the pharmaceutical industry and in digital health. And I think the holy grail in a post-COVID world in healthcare is the patient. Every healthcare company, whether you're an insurance company, a hospital system, or all the new digital health companies, are all looking for innovative ways to access and influence patients. And we as patients, for the most part, are kind of not that interested in engaging with these healthcare organizations. And so what we wanted to do at ScalaMed was find a way to help truly stand there with consumers, with the patient, help support them on their journey, and base that support around the most frequent thing that patients do in healthcare, which is a prescription. And so therefore, what we do at ScalaMed is we actually leverage the frequency of that transaction, the fact that patients really only want to do healthcare when they've got something to transact on. And so what we do is we take that frequent transaction, we create a really simple to use patient-centric tool to give patients ownership over their prescriptions. And ultimately the prescription sort of becomes this Trojan horse, this gateway with which we can support and access patients as they manage their healthcare.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you, Tal, for breaking it down for us like that. So ScalaMed has a unique business model. Can you tell us a bit more about how the platform engages the patients and doctors in a sustainable way, please?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, 72% of all visits to a doctor end up with a doctor giving a patient a prescription. And in Australia today, that's been mainly paper, although that's recently changed with QR coding. Target market at the moment is actually mainly the US market, and prescriptions for the most part actually never go to the patient. In the US, prescriptions are sent from a doctor directly to a pharmacy, ultimately bypassing the most important person. And so what we wanted to do was create a way to actually enable any doctor to send the patient a prescription directly. No need to look through SMSs, no need to kind of find QR codes, but essentially send it to a patient, have it land on their phone, where for the first time the patient can see pricing. They can compare pharmacy pricing. They can be educated in 29 languages about what the medicine's for and how to use it safely and effectively. They can be warned if they've received a prescription that may not be appropriate for them or may interact with something else they're taking. Essentially what we call a smart prescription. And then within 3 clicks from their phone, the patient can send their prescription without even having to step foot in any shop, can send their prescription directly to any pharmacy across the country for pickup or for delivery. And in doing so, our entire business model is based around the fact that we actually take that technology, that smart prescription wallet technology, and enable it to be an API, essentially a plug and play feature that sits inside any of our customers' apps. So whether you're an insurance company, a large pharmaceutical company, or the new digital health companies, virtual primary care organizations, anyone really who has a health application who wants to engage a patient can add this as a feature to their platform, essentially utilizing the prescription as a way to engage, activate, and access patients, as I said, while they're managing the most frequent thing that they will do in healthcare today.
This sounds amazing. This sounds like technology that is emerging, but is it difficult for your clients to integrate this with their current or existing systems, Tal?
That's a great question. So there are definitely some older systems. However, we actually built our technology to be developer first. One of the things that we learned from successful companies in this kind of health infrastructure, or essentially an infrastructure play, is when you look at companies like Plaid and Stripe and Twilio and others, they created technology that can essentially be plugged and played within 5 lines of code. And that's what we're heading towards with ScalaMed. So that in an afternoon, any healthcare organization that has an app, anyone that wants to drive patients to their digital front door And any organization that in some way wants to influence a patient or support them in their healthcare journey can implement and embed our ScalaMed tool tomorrow. And so that's a pretty awesome place. In fact, you may sort of be surprised by this statistic, but there are in fact 318,000 health applications on the App Store in the US alone. And so it's an immense market opportunity because everybody in healthcare recognizes that you've got to find a way to support patients. You've got to find a way to really hold their hand on this journey. And we do so trying to deliver what's called the triple aim: deliver better health outcomes at a lower cost and while improving the experience of healthcare for everybody.
This sounds like an amazing evolution of the healthcare, especially in the US, where patients can sometimes be a little bit, not left on the lurch, but a little bit on their own along the journey. And it sounds like ScalaMed's doing something just to close that gap. Tal, you are a publicly listed company, is that right? ScalaMed's listed on an exchange?
No, we're a privately held organization.
Your private organisation, and can investors get involved and invest in this product and technology that you are promoting?
Yeah, we've actually had some fantastic investors coming out of Australia, out of the US, and so yeah, please do get in touch with us at ScalaMed. You can get in contact through our website, scalamed.com, and very happy to talk to investors about the journey that we're on. We are going to change the face of healthcare. We're going to make it easier. We're going to make it more patient-centric. We're going to create a future where no one really needs to be on their own when they're managing their health.
Thank you. Would you mind delving a little bit deeper into how ScalaMed is changing the way that the medical sector views patients? How has the platform performed in generating savings for patients as well as reducing hospitalisations, please?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. There's always been this knowledge asymmetry when it comes to healthcare. So if you think about it, we've always had this kind of all-knowing doctor. And as a doctor myself, you know, we were trained in medical school to leave medical school, and with this maybe a little bit of arrogance around our own ability to be the doctor and to be the most important person in the room. But there is a huge knowledge asymmetry that has historically been there. But if you actually look at what's happening today across the healthcare, there is no way for any doctor to be over all of the changes and the evolutions in the data around healthcare. In fact, it's impossible. And what we now know is that, with Dr. Google, as people like to refer it to, with the ability for patients to actually get the information at their fingertips, doctors actually need to start thinking about a different role that they're going to play in healthcare. No longer being solely a diagnostician or deciding on the best therapy, because in fact, we have better tools with algorithms that can be thrown into a computer that can actually take into consideration your genomics, your other medications you're on, the prices, your particular profession and the side effects that might be related to that. And so what we believe in the future is that doctors are going to play a much more important role in the counseling and the support and all the emotional needs that are so critical to outcomes in healthcare. And that technology supporting and holding a patient's hand in the 99.9% of the time that we're on our own managing our healthcare is really the way of the future. And so the access point to the individual, the way in to be able to support a patient is through transactions. In other words, find those jobs that patients have to do and utilize that as the hook with which to capture and ultimately gain access to individuals. And when you do that in a trusted way where people truly know that you have their back, and we do that in certain ways, back to your question around pricing, we do that when a patient receives a prescription when there may be a lower cost alternative. When a patient receives a prescription that there's actually one pharmacy might be lower cost than another one. If that's important for them, then we have that opportunity. It's Thanksgiving weekend now in the US that's kicking off. I just got off the phone with an investor who was telling me that he lives in Colorado, he's on his way to Houston to visit his family, and his prescriptions are stuck in the pharmacy in Colorado, and it's nearly impossible to rip them out and pass them over to the pharmacy in Houston where he's found. And so he's on the phone trying to call doctors on a holiday weekend or during a holiday week, trying to get his medications, which he needs to manage his health. And so we at ScalaMed are trying to make that easier for people. Carry your prescriptions with you wherever you go. Get access to your medications, whether it's cost, whether it's finding a pharmacy that's open at midnight near you, giving patients much more control over their health so they can be part of the solution, so that they can be empowered with the right information at the right time to make a better healthcare decision, and to a certain extent to remove that current knowledge asymmetry that exists in our healthcare system.
Thank you, Tal. It seems that digitisation has revolutionised the medical sector over the last 18 to 24 months, as we've seen the pandemic cause social distancing restrictions, and there's been more video appointments and things like that. And it sounds like ScalaMed's technology will add and integrate to the functionality of this new digitisation. So we've also noticed how important doctors and health practitioners are at this time, and anything that can make their jobs easier as well in supporting patients, I'm sure will prosper. So Tal, helping people to help themselves is obviously one of the main factors of being in the health profession. How does the platform allow patients to take responsibility of their health? I know you've touched on it a bit. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, healthcare is confusing, right? We're often prescribed drugs. We don't really know what they're for. We don't know how they work. We can't even pronounce the name. In fact, 60 or 70% of patients don't know the names or the doses of the drug they're actually taking. And that's dangerous. So as a physician myself, being in an emergency department, working there and playing a game of charades while patients are trying to remember the name of the pill or the yellow pill that begins with L is actually a dangerous game to play. And what we want to do is actually, the only person in common at the pharmacy, at the specialist, at the hospital, at the GP is the patient. And what we believe is if you can give patients ownership over their record, if you can make their prescriptions and their records smart so that it can anticipate challenges, it can notice issues, and can ultimately create a way to support a patient and direct them into care when they need care, then you create a way to actually support a patient through that process. And certain people in our system, certain people like ScalaMed because of the price comparisons. They're value shoppers. For them, saving $5 on a pill is sometimes the difference between taking it or not. And sometimes we save patients up to hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the medications that they've been prescribed by directing them to a lower cost pharmacy. For others, it's about access, right? It's a holiday weekend. You're traveling, you may have a couple of homes. Being able to have your prescriptions on you all the time is a critical value to those business travelers, people who might be at the Marriott Hotel and need to find a pharmacy nearby. For others, it's about the ability to manage your parents or your children that you're caring for. And for others, it's about just information. So it's about carrying around your prescription record 24/7. It's about having access to how do I take this thing safely and effectively in 29 languages. And for others, it's simply about feeling a little bit more in control over their health. And for anyone who's been in the healthcare space, anyone who's experienced healthcare, it's dizzying, it's confusing, it's scary. And it's, that vulnerability, what we try and do is really help people in the most vulnerable times to take the medicines. And at the end of the day, none of us want to be thinking about healthcare. We want to be thinking about the more important things in life. And so if we can play a small role in that, then we'll have done our job.
Right. Thank you so much. And I think we've noticed now with the immunisation and the inoculation efforts that people are having to reveal whether they've been vaccinated or not, that it can be very useful for people to have this sort of information at their fingertips or, in a device so that they can talk about it clearly and correctly, like you say. Thank you so much, Tal. That was a very informative discussion. Really do appreciate your insights on Expert Talks today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And if you've just joined us, we just had a very informative discussion with Dr. Tal Rapke, the CEO of ScalaMed. And the full recorded interview will be available from YouTube via Kalkine Media. So keep watching Kalkine for more of the live market updates and expert talks. But till the next episode, stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine.